The airline threw a single dad and his daughter out of first class, then the pilot walked out and... The flight attendant's voice cut through the quiet cabin with a firmness that made every passenger look up. A tired single father held his little daughter's hand as both of them stood beside their first-class seats, their boarding passes still in his trembling fingers. The young girl hugged a worn stuffed rabbit against her chest, confused by the eyes staring at them. Within seconds, whispers spread across the luxurious cabin. Some passengers assumed they didn't belong there. Others silently watched without saying a word. But no one expected what would happen next. Before the aircraft door closed, the captain himself walked out of the cockpit, stopped in the aisle, and looked directly at the father. What happened in the next few minutes changed not only that flight but the lives of everyone who witnessed it. Before we continue, if you believe kindness deserves to be rewarded and everyone deserves a second chance regardless of how they look or where they come from, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment sharing where you're watching from, share this story with someone you love, and subscribe to Moments Hub for more emotional stories that remind us humanity still exists. Ethan Brooks had not slept properly in weeks. At 36 years old, life had carved deep lines across his face that made him appear much older than he really was. His faded jacket had been carefully cleaned the night before, and although it was years old, he wore it proudly because it was the nicest thing he owned. His greatest treasure was not the small suitcase rolling behind him. It was the tiny hand holding his own. 8-year-old Lily walked beside him with quiet excitement, her bright eyes filled with dreams she had never spoken aloud. She had never flown before. She had never stayed in a hotel. She had never even left their small hometown. Every new sight inside the airport felt magical to her. Only a year earlier, Ethan's world had completely fallen apart. His wife, Sarah, had lost a long battle with cancer, leaving him to raise Lily alone. Medical bills had emptied every savings account they had spent years building. Ethan sold his truck, cancelled every luxury, worked overtime repairing heating systems, and still struggled to keep the lights on. Every night he promised Lily everything would be okay, even when he secretly wondered whether he could keep that promise himself. Then something unexpected happened. Months before Sarah passed away, she had quietly entered an essay contest hosted by a charitable foundation connected to several airlines. She wrote about her dream of taking Lily to meet her grandparents one day so the little girl would know the family she had never met. Sarah never told Ethan about the contest because she believed nothing would come from it. After her passing, the foundation contacted Ethan. Sarah's essay had won first prize. The award included 2 first-class airline tickets, hotel accommodations, and transportation to visit Lily's grandparents across the country. Ethan cried while reading the email because it felt like Sarah had somehow reached across heaven to give them one final gift. He promised himself he would make the journey unforgettable. On the morning of the flight, Lily carefully braided her own hair after watching online tutorials because she wanted to look beautiful for Grandma. She wore a simple blue dress Sarah had sewn months before she became too weak to hold a needle. Ethan polished Lily's tiny shoes until they looked almost new. Looking at his daughter that morning reminded him so much of Sarah that his heart ached with both love and grief. At the airport, people rushed in every direction. Business travelers hurried toward security while families dragged oversized luggage through endless crowds. Ethan checked every document several times, terrified that one mistake would ruin everything. When they finally reached the boarding gate, Lily squeezed his hand. She whispered that she wished Mom could see this. Ethan smiled despite the tears forming in his eyes. He quietly answered that somehow she probably could. Boarding began, and the gate agent smiled warmly after scanning their tickets. Everything seemed perfect. Ethan thanked every employee they met because he believed gratitude cost nothing. When they stepped into the first-class cabin, Lily gasped softly. The seats looked larger than the sofa in their tiny apartment. She stared out the window, unable to stop smiling. For a brief moment, Ethan forgot every hardship they had endured. Then everything changed. Another flight attendant approached with a concerned expression. She examined their boarding passes repeatedly before asking Ethan to step aside. Several passengers looked over with curiosity. A well-dressed businessman rolled his eyes impatiently. A woman wearing expensive jewelry quietly shook her head as if she had already reached her own conclusion. The attendant explained that there appeared to be an issue with the seating assignment. Ethan calmly handed over every confirmation email stored on his phone. The tickets clearly showed first class. The attendant disappeared for several minutes before returning with a supervisor. The supervisor spoke politely but firmly. She insisted there had been a reservation problem and asked Ethan and Lily to wait near the aircraft entrance while they investigated. Minutes passed. Passengers continued boarding. People whispered. Some assumed Ethan had tried sneaking into first class. Others believed the tickets must have been fake. Lily noticed the uncomfortable stares and slowly lowered her head. She clutched her stuffed rabbit tighter than ever before. Ethan could feel his daughter shrinking under the weight of strangers' judgment. He wanted to protect her from every painful glance. Instead, all he could do was stand beside her. Eventually the supervisor returned with disappointing news. She explained that according to their system, those seats had been reassigned because of what appeared to be a reservation conflict. She offered Ethan 2 economy seats near the back of the aircraft. Ethan wasn't angry about sitting elsewhere. He simply feared losing the final gift Sarah had left behind. He quietly showed the email confirming the charity award once again. The supervisor apologized but claimed there was nothing she could do. Passengers continued watching. Lily asked whether they had done something wrong. That innocent question shattered Ethan's heart more than any financial hardship ever had. He knelt beside his daughter and gently brushed a strand of hair away from her face. He assured her that she had done absolutely nothing wrong. Sometimes adults made mistakes too. Several people nearby heard those words. A few lowered their eyes in embarrassment. Then something extraordinary happened. The cockpit door opened. The captain stepped into the aisle before departure preparations had even finished. Every flight attendant immediately became silent. The entire cabin watched as the pilot walked directly toward Ethan. The captain was a man in his late 50s with calm eyes that carried decades of experience. His name tag read Captain Michael Hayes. He looked at Ethan for several long seconds. Then recognition filled his face. Years earlier, before becoming a commercial airline captain, Michael had been serving in the Air Force Reserve while attending flight school. During one devastating winter storm, his family's furnace had completely failed. Ethan, then a young repair technician barely earning enough to support his own family, had worked through the night to restore heat without charging them a single dollar because Captain Michael's newborn son had been sick with pneumonia. Michael had offered to pay later. Ethan refused. He simply said that children should never spend a freezing night because their parents couldn't afford repairs. Michael had never forgotten that kindness. Now fate had brought them together again. After learning about the seating issue from another crew member, Captain Michael personally reviewed the reservation records. Within minutes he discovered the truth. The charity tickets had been correctly issued months earlier, but an internal computer synchronization error had mistakenly marked the seats as available during a last-minute schedule adjustment. The mistake wasn't Ethan's. It belonged entirely to the airline. Captain Michael calmly informed the cabin crew that Ethan and Lily would remain exactly where they belonged. The first-class passengers remained silent. Some looked embarrassed. Others smiled warmly. One elderly woman quietly wiped tears from her eyes. The supervisor apologized sincerely. But Captain Michael wasn't finished. He explained to the crew that professionalism meant more than following procedures. It meant protecting dignity. No passenger should ever be made to feel ashamed before facts were confirmed. His words echoed through the cabin. Every employee listened carefully. Ethan thanked him repeatedly, still unaware that the captain recognized him. Only after everyone settled into their seats did Captain Michael reveal the story from years before. He explained that long before he wore captain's stripes, one struggling repairman had shown his family extraordinary compassion during the hardest season of their lives. He looked at Lily. Then he smiled. He said kindness always finds its way home. The entire first-class cabin erupted into heartfelt applause. Several passengers stood. The businessman who had silently judged Ethan earlier walked over before takeoff and apologized for making assumptions based on appearance alone. The elegant woman removed a small teddy bear from a gift bag she had purchased for her granddaughter and offered it to Lily as a souvenir for her journey. Lily hugged both rabbits tightly. For the first time since losing her mother, her smile returned without sadness hiding behind it. During the flight, Captain Michael arranged a special surprise. After landing preparations began, he invited Lily into the cockpit with Ethan's permission. Wearing oversized headphones, she sat in the captain's seat while looking at hundreds of glowing instruments. Captain Michael told her that courage didn't always look like flying airplanes. Sometimes courage looked like a father waking before sunrise every day just to give his daughter hope. Ethan stood quietly behind them. His eyes filled with tears. Those words healed wounds no one else could see. When the aircraft landed, the story had already spread among crew members. Airport employees welcomed Ethan and Lily with smiles instead of curious stares. Lily's grandparents waited near the arrivals area holding flowers and photographs Sarah had mailed years earlier. The reunion became one of the happiest moments Ethan had experienced since losing his wife. For several days they laughed, shared old family memories, and finally found peace together. Weeks later, Ethan received another unexpected letter. The airline had completed a full investigation. They formally apologized for the incident and invited Ethan to help develop new customer service training focused on empathy, dignity, and respectful treatment of passengers during difficult situations. They believed employees could learn more from someone who had experienced quiet humiliation with grace than from another corporate seminar. Ethan accepted. He didn't do it for money. He did it because he never wanted another child to wonder if they had done something wrong simply because adults made assumptions. Captain Michael remained close friends with Ethan's family. Every birthday, Lily received a handwritten postcard from somewhere in the world, reminding her to dream big, stay kind, and never judge people by appearances. Years later, when Lily graduated from college, one familiar face sat proudly in the audience wearing a captain's uniform. She ran across the stage after the ceremony and hugged him like family. Because by then, he truly was. If this story has touched your heart so far, please pause for a moment and write in the comments. Kindness always comes back. We'd love to know you're watching and standing with people who believe compassion still changes lives. Life has a strange way of returning the good we give without expecting anything in return. Sometimes the reward arrives quickly. Sometimes it takes years. Sometimes we never even realize the lives we've changed until destiny quietly brings the story full circle. Ethan never repaired that furnace expecting gratitude. Captain Michael never imagined that one act of kindness would one day allow him to restore another family's dignity in front of an entire airplane. Yet that is how compassion works. It travels farther than we can see, touches hearts we'll never meet, and eventually finds its way back when hope seems almost lost. If this story moved you, reminded you of someone special, or renewed your faith in humanity, please like this video, share it with your friends and family, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Moments Hub. Your support helps us continue sharing powerful stories that remind the world that kindness, love, and hope are never wasted. Until next time, take care of one another, because the smallest act of compassion may become someone else's greatest miracle.